Hello, all you crazy people out there. My name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games. Welcome back to Making Games. So the recording for last week's video ended up going on for so long that I just cut the whole thing in half. The subject matter of that video being that it's time to start attaching collision objects to 3D objects in the game world. This video is going to be about finishing that up. Let's get cracking. The size of a call ob is supposed to be like half, like the half length, because I set this up to use half extents. Whereas the this thing is actually set to have the block size be the full extents. I feel like the way that the collision system does it is more correct with the like half side length. I might throw that on the to-do list for me to also fix with Penguin later on. All right, so we're like offset by the oh, I know why that is. That's an easy fix. So what's going on now is we're directly setting the XYZ position of the shapes, and this is a problem that's going to befall spheres and obs. But we also have the actual like position translation offset of the box itself, which in the case of this object is 16, 16, 16. It's probably going to be a good idea to like also keep track of the original position and possibly also the original rotation matrix for all of these things. Because if they were to move, then you're going to want to know that information. So I think that's what I'll do. We can save our original position is going to be that. And just for the heck of it, we can do it for the original radius as well. And we can also shape, because this is GameMaker and we can just duct tape on variables wherever we want. We can save these onto the shape, and we can do the same thing. We can do the same thing for the ob. All right, and then when we reposition an object, we can say self.shape.position.x equals self.x plus object.shape original position.x. This is really, really long. Believe it or not, there used to be a day when I was good at typing. I don't know where those days went. But we can also add the original shapes XYZ. And should it come down to it, depending on the type of shape, I will also do that for the radius if we want a sphere to get bigger or smaller. I don't think we're ever going to want that. And also the orientation of an ob. Should we ever have one that rotates? I'm not convinced that I'm going to want to implement rotating objects in this game, because that's going to be a whole thing. But we can work with this for now, and hopefully this is incrementally getting better. We didn't crash on load. That's always a good sign. And we have ourselves an oriented bounding box versus the player sphere. Okay, I'm also noticing I was able to jump when in contact with the side without getting stuck. So it's possible that when I referenced that bug, there was something else that I was doing wrong, and in the process of finishing the last video, I just got rid of it, because I currently cannot reproduce that. All right. That's good. So this is going to mean that all I have to do is basically to add collision to an object, I can just say instance create depth, the position, object, 3D object, whatever. I can say that.set mesh to whatever 3D object I want. And then if they ever move, or if I ever change the mesh of an object on the fly, and I want the collision shapes to be updated, or any other reason I would want the collision shapes to be updated, I can just say update collision positions. So that's something I would consider a success. I think I can get rid of the test block entirely now. So all this I can just get rid of. We've still got the ground. Is the ground not a plane? Did I not make the ground a plane? I think in the last video I said I was eventually going to make the ground a plane, but I honestly don't know if I want to. Like, is it even worth it? Like, am I ever gonna want... Like, if I want the player to be able to go below the perceived ground, I could always just, like, raise the rest of the level high in the air. And, in that light, I could also just, like, make the lower bound of the collision world 0. Right, that's not gonna hurt anything, right? Anyway, I consider this a pretty successful video. We should still have everything that I needed. I do kind of get stuck on the edge when it comes to like running into the corner, but I think that's normal. I think that's pretty normal. I don't really consider that a problem unless you really want the player to be able to slide around the corner, which I don't get worked up about. Okay. The player, however, could also use a collision system like this. Right now, the player's data is still hard-coded, so I think... I don't know, maybe I'll make... And this is... I said, didn't I, that I wanted to prevent the inheritance hierarchy from getting too out of control, didn't I? Alright. I think I can make this work without adding, like, another layer of inheritance or whatever. But, let's commit this. We're gonna say we have... We can add and update collision shapes in the game world. Oh, you know what? Just to test this, because I do want to, I'm going to say in the step event simply self.x plus equals like 0.25 or so. So it's going to move in the positive x direction slowly. And then self.update collision positions. And let's just see if, one, if I can like chase the block around. Alright, you're moving in the positive x direction. I cannot chase the block around. Why is that? That's a problem. Definitely a sign that something isn't going right. Let's start with the obvious one. Are we updating the shape correctly? Oh no, what on earth are you doing? You are really... why is original position changing? Oh, because that's a reference to the same object. I don't have a vector, like, clone method, do I? I don't think I ever... That might not be a bad thing to add, is a vector clone method. Yeah, there's no vector clone method. The best I can do to clone a vector now is to just, like, multiply it by 1. It's going to be another future task. Matrices probably could also have a clone method, honestly. But yeah, the original position vector 3 and the actual position vector 3 that it was taking are referring to the same object. And I don't want that to happen, because they will be one and the same value. And, okay, matrices are not kind enough to just let me multiply them by 1. But I can clone the linear array. Alright, that's kind of ugly. That's going to be something that I'll definitely have to change as soon as I update this collision system. Okay. Oh no, where do you think... That frame rate, what's happening to that frame rate? Alright, anyway, if I jump up here and if you move... Alright, I do fall. That frame rate is something else, I tell you. Another thing I did want to do is like look in the profiler and see what's expensive and what can be optimized. That's probably not something I'll take care of today, but I do want to look at it. So, this recording is going on for an hour, 12 minutes. which is a little bit much. If I start profiling, 3D object step is definitely taking up a lot. Okay, so simply adding you to the collision world every step. Wow. Okay. That's heavier than I thought it would be. Definitely room for improvement here. So, ob versus ab. Ob versus ab itself is going to be a bit much, a bit heavy. And then in, alright, so there are a couple of recursive calls there. Alright, it's just the sheer amount of computing. If I were to, like, set the number of subdivisions for the world to 2 instead of 1, would that be any better? Alright, that's still not exactly a sustainable 16.6 millisecond frame time, but it's definitely better when you do it like that. Alright, yeah, optimizations. I've been talking about those. This will be a good test case because capsule versus whatever else I was doing a couple of videos ago, definitely you can understand why that would be a little bit expensive, but obs and abs, I mean, it's definitely math. It's definitely a good amount of math, but it shouldn't be slowing the game down heavy. I have to find out what'll happen if I run this with the Yo-Yo compiler. Alright, so for reference, our frame time the last time was about 15 milliseconds per frame, and that would equate to, I want to say, what, like a 75 FPS or so. You are not pushing me because I have not written code that would have you do that, but now just idling we're getting about 100 or so, which is definitely better. It should go without saying that I'm not going to lean on the Yo-Yo compiler for performance. I am going to indeed do some things to make this 3D collision code a little bit faster. Once I get off my lazy butt and switch back to the virtual machine, once I get off my lazy butt and properly implement spatial hashes, I'll probably move the collision world over to use a spatial hash. Just because, at least the way I'm seeing it, I am probably going to have a lot of like geometry in the levels that's a little bit like spaced out. Not a lot of like complex geometry that would lend itself well to an octree or a quad tree. And spatial hashes are just a little tiny bit more friendly in that regard. However, this was just a test. We're not going to do that. Of course, there will be moving objects in this game world, such as the player, but there probably won't be many, like moving platforms and stuff. Like, there'll be a couple, but not a lot. Did I change anything? I kind of did. So, let's have the player... Okay, actually, you know what? I have a better idea. Okay, so I started to make a bunch of changes wherein I merged NPCs and like generic 3D objects, and then I realized that sounds a lot like the kind of thing that I think is going to make my life easier, and that is actually not going to make my life easier, so I closed GameMaker, reverted the changes, and reopened the project. However, I do still need, and I believe I talked about this in the last time too, but I do still need some amount of better ways of handling collisions with NPCs. So I think I'm going to move the relevant collision information from the player object to the NPC object, and I'm also going to need an event inherited here. I believe one of the things I cited was, for example, taking the potential movement and only like doing all this, basically only doing all this like in the end step event or something like that, and basically saving the dx, dy, dz for later. So taking this and moving it to NPC's end step. like this. Basically collecting potential movement and evaluating it later on. Can I make dx, dy, dz themselves? Oh, you know what I have is I have the y speed for like jumping, and I did say that I would probably do something like that with NPCs. Am I inheriting yeah. So let's do the same for all three of those axes. I don't need that open anymore. I don't need this open anymore. I can just have two tabs and I won't get confused which one I belong in. So we're gonna figure out y speed like that. Y speed times the movement speed. Is it? No, that's only on the x and z. Y speed times equals that. X speed times equals that. Z speed times equals this. I can make this text bigger. That looks a lot better, doesn't it? All right, for the player, we're also going to do this business with a camera field of view, like that. And there is no dy, is there? Not that's being assigned to. And then in the player, we're also going to want to call the inherited event. Final dx is going to be, okay, so that's what's actually allowed. I also talked about like writing like a get permitted movement vector method. I might save that. This video is once again going longer than I really wanted it to. Delta x speed. Where's all the occurrences of dx? Can just find and replace all those. dz can be replaced with that. And are there any dy's? There are a few dy's. So this change should I should be able to run this change. Nothing funny is gonna happen, right? I should still be able to collide with everything. That's not normal. Okay, so everything but the alright, it's still trying to do this per step, right? And it's trying to do everything else like per second. So this would be like 150 like units per second. Is any of this delta timed actually, or am I just making that up? I'm just making that up. Alright. I'll leave this as a per frame for now. Speed should actually not be multiplied by y speed though. I really need to look up integration with delta time, because I keep saying I'm gonna do that because it's one of those things that I just never remember and have to look up constantly. And if you want to do delta time in games and not have things like jumping behave weirdly, you do need it. Alright, so I'm getting stuck because if you picture the sphere, the corner of the box is sort of stuck in the slope of the sphere. I will, I think, eventually implement climbing, and that will become a non-issue. Some form of climbing, anyway. But jumping works-ish. Looking through the code, I'm actually kind of surprised that jumping was working the first time, because it looked like this was still being multiplied by, 3 or 5 or whatever the first time. There's space in the game for having you jump higher if you're running while you take your jump, but I'm not going to deal with that now. All right. Did I lower the jump value though, because it now felt a little too heavy? Alright. What I probably need to do is make gravity stronger. Oh, am I doing it again? Am I getting stuck on the corner again? Does it only happen on certain corners? Maybe it only happens on certain corners. That definitely warrants investigation. It only happens on this corner. I don't know why. Alright. Definitely warrants investigation. But the has moved, so for the camera field of view business, that can go an end step also before update camera is called. Oh, actually, normally I wouldn't mind using X previous, Y previous. Yeah, I can do that. All right. I was gonna say I think X previous and Y previous are updated at like a time where that wouldn't work, but no, it's should be between steps. Oh, but I do need... Alright, fine. I need X and Z, not X and Y. And that was in debug mode. Alright, who cares? We're going to have the debugger popping up in the background. I did not mean to do that. But I do want... Alright, like that there, I was able to jump while in the corner, but not... It's weird. Alright, so we're running... Field of view is pulled back. We're walking, it's not. And if... Oh. It still does it if I don't actually move. Oh, yes, it does. I was just moving slightly. Should I make this like if it's greater than like 4 world space units? Or really... 1 world space units. Okay. The movement code has been separated from the player controls. So now any NPC that can figure out a X, Y, or Z speed should be able to collide with the world. I don't think I'm going to test that now, because I've been recording for 1 hour 40 minutes, and I have to cut it off at some point. Although, just out of sheer curiosity, how does this perform? I don't imagine a sphere versus a knob is going to be like that heavy for however few of these we're doing per frame, but I'm just going to run around in circles for a little while, and we're going to possibly collide with the box, and at some point I'm going to go and close that. Okay, so I'm getting about... Is the draw event really already that heavy? Oh, it's the particle system mostly. Alright, never mind. We're getting about a millisecond per player update, which isn't terrible. There's still plenty of room for improvement. That's going to definitely need to be improved once we have more objects in the world, but for now, I think I'm happy with that. I think I'm going to start creating a 0.12 tag. I really am a little behind on creating the releases for past weeks. I really need to do that. Let's see, a nice system for interfacing between entities and collision shapes. I think we can formally say that has been finished. Set object collision shapes. The important ones are in. We have added the 3D collision system. I've been working on that for several weeks now, and I think I can finally, with good conscience, say that that's finished. Can I also archive these? That is the archive button. So that's officially done. Next time. Feels like a decent time to start taking care of players should be able to, I said climb. Climbing, there we go. Oh, that's already in my hand. Ascending slopes. I want to do that at the same time as climbing because it's a related problem, but I feel like I don't have like a great way to, you know, test it. I guess I could take and oriented bounding box, like rotate it like 30 degrees and make it a slope that the player can climb up and see how that works. That'll depend on me fixing the output from Penguin before I record the next video. I'll put that in my hand anyway. Moving objects translation. I noticed I did not write moving objects rotation because that's probably going to be just nothing short of pain. Moving objects, jumping and momentum, test object for moving platforms. All right, let's just move all the moving things into my hand. And some of those will get done. And after that, I think we'll start looking at, oh, I can also say fake shadows. It'll be a bit of a graphical thing. But now that there's like a player object, it makes a little more sense to have that. And the player object can like jump up and down and stuff. That's not going to be a real shadow by any means. That's just going to be like a circle drawn under the player and making sure that it's projected downwards onto whatever's beneath you. Fine, I'll add that too. All right, we are making headway here. How am I doing on the milestone? Is this the milestone that I set for 45 days? Oh no, that's today, obviously. It's the 27th. The milestone is out there. Alright, I think I can do that. I think that's doable. Alright, if I show metrics, where am I? December 2036. My due date just keeps getting pushed back and back and back, although I don't think this accounts for all the things I checked off today. These cards, that was 10 points of worth. 10 points of work checked off. That was 2% of the whole project. Yeah, that'll do it for today. My name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games. If you want to see the code for this, look for the GitHub repository down in the video description. Look for the 0.12 release. I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute to this channel, links to that can be found in all the usual places. Otherwise, I try to post about 2 game dev videos a week, one of these and one tutorial. Really hoping that by the time this video goes up, I will have like made more headway on finishing that 3D Collision series, because I've been procrastinating on that hard and I really want to finish it. Anyway, I hope you all found that interesting, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Zenjamin, Vitro V, Squarecrow, Sindra Larson, Manta Ray, Harold Guidry, GameMaker, Edward Holt, DJ Gibbles, and Army Armbuster for supporting these videos. If you want to contribute to the channel, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.